Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Josh Gingold, and this is Climbing the Exchange 2013 Mountain, How to Get to the Top, brought to you by Dell. Our guest today is Ron Robbins, Product Manager for Dell Migration Solutions. Be with Ron in just a moment, but first a couple of quick housekeeping notes for all of you who are on this webinar today. First of all, the slides will advance automatically, so no need for you to do anything. Please just sit back and enjoy the presentation. Also, if you'd like to ask a question, then please do so in the field provided on the left-hand side of your console. All questions and comments are welcome, and we'll do our best to answer as many of those as possible at the end of today's presentation. And finally, an on-demand version of this presentation will also be available in about 24 hours, and we'll send an email to everyone who registered for today's event. Now, a real quick look at today's agenda. First of all, we're going to talk about Microsoft Exchange on your terms, not the terms of anybody else, but on your terms. Ron is also going to feature the highlights of Exchange 2013 so that you know exactly what's new, what isn't, and what you might be able to do with it. And then we're going to cover preparing for an Exchange migration, probably the reason that most of you have logged on to today's webinar. We'll look at the top 10 steps to ensure a successful Exchange migration, common drivers, which you're probably painfully aware of. We'll validate that. Key considerations, value of a migration partner, such as Dell, of course, and the Dell migration approach. Everything you need to know about what exactly goes into a worthy migration partner. As I said, we also want to hear from you, so we'll take as many of your questions and comments as we can at the end of today's presentation. And with that, I'd like to say welcome to Ron, and Ron, take it away.
Josh, thanks so much for the great introduction, and I want to thank you for attending this webcast, taking time out of your day and learning about what it takes to migrate to Exchange and how Dell can help you do that. Let's first talk about Exchange. Everybody knows that Exchange Server is a collaboration platform. Whether it's on-premise or hosted, Microsoft Exchange provides things like mail, calendaring, contact management, as well as other collaboration features. It integrates with things like SharePoint and Lync to provide a complete collaboration solution. It also provides consistent access and remote access to things like Outlook, Outlook Anywhere, and also a variety of mobile devices like tablets, cell phones. Through ActiveSync, you can synchronize your mail and receive mail even at your cell phone. Exchange depends on Active Directory, so for any Exchange migration that does occur, you have to consider Active Directory, consider your Active Directory structure. The directory, obviously, in Exchange is provided in provides the GAL in Exchange for any kind of directory that you have in Active Directory. So it does integrate in that way. Also, combines with other products, like I mentioned earlier, to provide a complete collaboration solution. So what are some of the highlights of Exchange 2013? What are the things usually that Microsoft comes out with every release, the things that they'd like to push as new highlights and new features in Exchange 2013? Well, let's talk about simplified administration. First of all, they've done improved administration to the point where you can have a single web-based interface that allows you to manage Exchange administrative functions, whether it be on-premise Exchange or in Office 365. And so it simplifies the administration process by having one place you can go to manage all the aspects of Exchange. Managed availability, basically a high availability solution that allows you to have complete uptime for your Exchange systems and make sure that you never lose access. The ability to manage inbox overload with tools like mail tips, the ability to manage your conversations, reduce email clutter with things like inline compose and reply. You're able to manage your inbox overload and make sure that your mail's more easily managed in your inbox. And I don't know about you, I get a lot of email. I'm sure everybody else that gets a lot of email, and it's nice to have some of those tools to be able to eliminate some of those emails and manage some of those emails in your inbox. I think my favorite tool is Ignore Conversation that came out with the last version of Exchange and allows you to just completely ignore a thread and move it to the deleted items folder if it's just noise to you. Consistent interface. It provides a consistent look and feel across multiple devices, whether that be at a desktop or on the server level or in a touch-enabled device or a mobile device. It just allows you to be able to access some of the same features like you would on your desktop Outlook client, maybe in your mobile or your tablet device. It has better SharePoint integration, being able to access SharePoint data and attach it to Exchange, or being able to access it through the Outlook client, and also using site mailboxes and how that integrates with Exchange. It allows you that ability. Data loss prevention is another new feature in Exchange 2013, and usually data loss prevention involves keeping information in the company secure and making sure it doesn't leak out to other organizations by providing rules to users and also informing users about policies they might be in violation of before they even send the email out through the use of mail tips. You can also manage e-discovery in this new version of Exchange by providing a single interface to search not only Exchange mailboxes on-premise, but also Exchange mailboxes in the cloud and now on SharePoint sites and in link conversations as well. So it's really a great e-discovery tool as well once you have it fully deployed. So most of you are here to learn about how to prepare for an Exchange migration. So let's talk about what we need to do, the 10 steps that we need to do to ensure a successful Exchange migration. And these are really more 10 guidelines or considerations for what you should be thinking about before you enter into an Exchange migration and things you should be thinking about to make that Exchange migration successful. So the first step is defining your environment, really taking a look at the platform you currently have. And the very first thing to do is what version of Exchange are you on? Determine that first, because a lot of times that's going to dictate the type of migration that you perform over to Exchange 2013. You know, it's even possible that you're not on an Exchange platform, that you're on a competitive platform like maybe Notes or GroupWise. And that's also going to determine what tool you select and also what path you take to migrate over to Exchange 2013. You need to understand the complexity of your environment. Make sure that you understand whether or not there's any applications that use Exchange or use Active Directory and how you're going to accommodate those during the migration period. You should evaluate any coexistence needs you have. Are there any special needs that some users have in Exchange that you need to maintain their communication during the migration and make sure that they can continue to collaborate with the users that are left on the source after they've been migrated over to the target? Another thing you do is to do a full assessment of your source organization. Make sure that you produce extensive reports on what you have in your source organization, understanding where users are located, how much mail they have, how large their mailboxes are, and who uses mail most of all. Maybe who are your heaviest users. You can put those on a server or isolate those users on a server to make sure that they have maximum performance that they need for their mail needs. You also might want to look at your PST problem and see if that is something that needs to be addressed during migration. You need to assess the technology that you're going to use to migrate your users over and make sure that it's something that's going to maintain continuity in your business and help you succeed at your migration. You need to prepare everybody in your organization, first of all, to make sure it's a successful migration. Communication is key here. You need to make sure you communicate not only to users to let them know what's happening, but also communicate to management on the status of your project and make sure that they understand what it's going to take to complete the project and make sure that you're successful in your entire project. Users need to know what's going to happen to their mail, what's going to happen to their data, and when it's going to happen. If there's going to be any downtime for users, they need to understand when that downtime is going to occur so they can work around it. You need to execute a pilot. One thing I tell everybody about executing a pilot is make sure that you don't include IT workers in your pilot group. The reason why you don't want to include IT workers in your pilot group is because IT workers will resolve problems when they occur, and they'll make sure that you probably never hear about a problem that might occur with your migration process. So IT workers aren't ones that tend to call the help desk and report a problem once they're included in a pilot group. And you just want to make sure that you have people in there that's a good mix of your organization, what your organization looks like, and make sure it's people that are going to report problems, people that are going to let you know or provide you feedback for what your migration process is and what it's doing to their data and what it looks like to them as an end user. You should revise your plan based on feedback and perfect it as you go and make sure that you understand that that plan is going to be completely successful. Once you have a successful plan that's been tested in a pilot group, you want to make sure that you prepare a checklist so that you can go through and repeat that plan over and over again as you migrate each mailbox over or migrate each group of users over to the new target system. You want to make sure that that checklist is complete and also includes not only the migration steps that you're going to take to migrate the data, but also the pre-migration steps and checklists that you need and the post-migration checklist to make sure that all the data arrives safely and that users can still access their data on the target system. You also want to build an asset management plan. I think it's also important at a migration is to go through your source hardware and make sure that you look and see if there's anything that needs to be upgraded or repurposed and reused on the target system so you can save some money during your project. You should look at all your client systems and how they access Exchange and what services they use to make sure that you don't need to update any client access license fees, or make sure that you have enough client access licenses provided for your users to be able to access the new target systems, whether you be on Office 365 or in Exchange 2013, or whether they're using Outlook or Office. The other thing you want to do is manage your system for compliance. Make sure that you protect against performance issues. Make sure you protect against any security gaps. You want a migration solution that's going to allow you to do some audits on who's doing what in the migration project to make sure that you understand who has access to what data, and if something goes wrong, you want to be able to point out quickly what went wrong and who was responsible for it so you can train that person and make sure that that mistake or issue doesn't happen again. You also want to make sure that you have a recovery solution in place. You want to be able to recover from disaster quickly and make sure that it's something that you practice and make sure it's something that you have in place before and during the migration period. So if something were to happen to a mailbox or a user, you'd be able to restore them very quickly, get them back up and running and accessing their data and using email as quickly as possible. You want to look at your Active Directory before you start your migration. Like we said, Exchange is integrated into Active Directory. Everybody knows this, and it's something that you want to make sure that you evaluate. Make sure that it's something that's cleaned up before migration. You want to look at things like orphaned users. You want to look at the way you name your users in your distribution list. You might even want to look at something like your password policy and make sure that it's something that doesn't need to be changed on the target system before you migrate the users into that. You want to find a tool that's going to help you report off of Active Directory and manage Active Directory, and also migrate those accounts over if needed. Don't forget about identity management. Once you have everybody migrated over to the target system, I'm not sure if you have a plan for provisioning or not, but sometimes you want to look at how you're going to provision users moving forward over on your target system. You want to utilize a tool that's going to help you consistently provision users and make sure that they comply to whatever your naming standards are, whatever your password standards are, and make sure that you can achieve the compliance that you really need for your organization. Consider the cloud. Anytime you make a change to your on-premise system, it's important to take a look at the cloud and see if it's going to save you money. In this case, you might want to look at Office 365. If you're a small organization and you don't have needs to have your email on-premise, Office 365 is a great solution. There are some things that you give up in Office 365. Some customers think they give up a little bit of security. Of course, when you move to a web-based system for email, there's always the chance that something might happen to your data or somebody might be able to access the data that you don't want them to have access to. Also, there's the possibility of giving up a little bit of control in that you might not always have control over the servers that are housing your data. So you might have to log a service request in case something goes down or access to a server goes down. It's not something that you might have direct control over. Also, cost is a factor. Some people like the operational expense of Office 365 and having their mail hosted in Office 365 and billed on a monthly basis, as opposed to a large upfront capital expenditure. Also, access is a big issue too. Can I access my email from anywhere? Office 365 allows a lot of options for that. So it's just something that you want to consider whenever you do a migration. So step 10, choose the right migration partner. I think it's very important to make sure that you choose somebody that's very competent, somebody that has a lot of experience in the migration field, somebody that's seen basically everything out there over the last few years as far as a legacy migration goes or a consolidation goes, and make sure that you have somebody that has a good tool on their side that helps you migrate your data over and does in a repeatable way that's had much success in the past. Let's talk about some drivers for migration. A lot of you are on the call today because maybe you're on Exchange 2003 or you're on Exchange 2000, and you know that eventually you need to get off of those systems and you need to upgrade to the next version of Exchange, Exchange 2013. You know it's going to be a challenge for you because Exchange 2013 doesn't support a direct migration from Exchange 2000 or 2003, so you're probably interested in what kind of things you can do to help keep you from doing that two-step migration and eliminating some of the work involved in a two-step migration. Also, there's some of you that are interested in the cloud or a hybrid transition. Maybe you're migrating an existing forest into Office 365 in a hybrid scenario. Also, you might be interested in just moving all your on-premise mail into Office 365. And so that's always a driver for migration. Some people do it to save money. Some people do it to make sure that they can save an ongoing expense and things like that. So that's definitely another driver is cloud or hybrid transition. Non-Microsoft platforms. There's still some users out there on Novell. There's still some users out there on Notes. There's actually a lot of users on Notes. And some people want to get off and standardize on Microsoft platforms because of the integration Microsoft has with some of the other collaboration solutions out there. So that might be a big driver for somebody to do a migration. Also, with the economy the way it is, there's been a lot of acquisitions, a lot of mergers of organizations, and so a consolidation project is also a big driver for an Exchange migration. Maybe in the past you've acquired a company and now it's time to merge the two forests together, and you want to do that in a way that provides coexistence to users so that it's a minimum impact to users in the environment so they can continue to communicate during the migration and make sure that there's no downtime for those users. So just some key considerations about moving to Exchange 2013. First, Exchange 2003 or earlier. I mentioned this earlier in the slides, but if you're migrating from Exchange 2003 or 2000 up to Exchange 2013, this isn't supported by any of the tools within Exchange. You have to do a two-step migration if you use the tools within Exchange to move your mailbox. That means that you need to move to a supported platform first or supported server version, and then you can move to the Exchange 2013 organization. Usually that involves a swing server or a server you put in place temporarily to allow the migration to occur, and then move mailbox over to Exchange 2013. It's something that provides an added level of complexity and an added level of expense for your migration. So you want to look for something that's going to get you there directly, and usually that's a third-party tool. If your source is Exchange 2007 or 2010, usually those upgrades are supported by native tools or the free tools included with Exchange. There are some exceptions, though, where complexity becomes really an overbearing issue when you're merging or migrating multiple forests into one target forest. There's usually a large degree of complexity involved in that, and a third-party migration solution can make that a little bit easier. Also, if you're merging multiple forests into one Office 365 tenant, there's also some supportability issues with that, and also the hybrid server doesn't support multiple source forests, so you might need to look for a third-party tool for that as well. Non-Microsoft platforms aren't supported by any third-party tools, so this is something else. Non-Microsoft platforms aren't supported by any of the tools that are free within Exchange. So you want to make sure if you're migrating from Notes or GroupWise or some other platform that you want to look at a third-party vendor for a migration solution that's going to enable you to get over to the target platform quickly and safely and do it in a way that's minimal impact to end users. Inter-org consolidation. So again, if you have a merger or acquisition and you're trying to merge or consolidate multiple forests, this is a great to evaluate a third-party solution for that and look at something that's going to provide you true coexistence during the consolidation and during the migration to ensure that users are never without email. And like we talked about, you want to make sure that you look at a solution that's going to give you success for your migration project. You want to make sure that you select a partner that's going to help you along the way, somebody that's had a lot of experience in the migration space, somebody that's able to answer any question or that has seen it all when it comes to migration and is able to answer any complex questions that you might have or cover off any complex scenarios that might occur during the migrations and make sure that you have success with your project. So now let's talk a little bit about the Dell migration approach. And we have a 4-pillar approach to zero-impact migration. Basically, they're prepare, migrate, coexist, and manage. Preparation, I kind of already talked about up in the 10 steps, where we have a solutions to go out and help you assess and analyze your current environment. We can basically do reporting off of things like Active Directory, SharePoint, Exchange, and determine where those users are located at, whether or not there's any orphan users that need to be cleaned up. We can identify any applications in Active Directory that's been Active Directory enabled and help you remediate those and make sure that they're still accessible during and after the migration. You can also identify where your highest value users are, where the ones that use mail the most, how big their mailboxes are so you understand what the storage is going to look like on the target. And we can also have analyze mailboxes and accounts that haven't been used in a long period of time to ensure that you're not migrating over data that's not needed. Then we can migrate your solutions over. We can automate many manual tasks that you might have to do during the migration, ensuring that the migration goes faster. We can schedule it for off hours and on weekends if needed. And we can also provide visibility into the migration, making sure that you have status reports and can report back to management and IT of what the status of the migration project is. And we can also verify that the migration was a success by determining whether or not all the data was migrated. During the migration process, we also provide coexistence solutions, whether that be from notes and GroupWise or other Exchange systems. We can make sure that users can continue to schedule appointments, continue to send email to each other, and continue to work in public folders and determine, and you can migrate over teams of users in separate migration batches without having to worry about whether or not they're going to be able to work together, because they'll continue to work together during the migration. Also, once you migrated over to the new target system, we can help you manage your target environment. We can not only help you recover from disasters, but we can also make sure that we enhance your security and change management by monitoring Active Directory and Exchange. And we can ensure availability by making sure that we provide quick diagnostics and detect problems before they occur and provide you with a solution to problems if they should occur. So with proper planning and delivering coexistence and providing data and protection and management after the migration, we can make sure that we can ensure a success for your migration project. So let's talk a little bit about our zero impact migration solutions. Basically, for the pre-migration and preparing your environment for migration, we provide a full suite of reporting solutions, something that's going to help you clean up your data, something that's going to report off of Active Directory and Exchange. And then once we do migrate, we provide solutions that migrate from platforms such as Lotus Notes, GroupWise, and Google Gmail. Of course, we can migrate from Exchange, whether it be legacy or current versions of Exchange. We can migrate from SharePoint and take your SharePoint data over to the next version of SharePoint or into SharePoint Online. We can migrate Exchange public folders over to the new public folder structure in Exchange 2013. Windows file shares can be consolidated and migrated over to new file servers. Active Directory users can be migrated over, and their workstations and resources processed during the migration to ensure that users never lose things like their desktop, their workstation profiles. They never lose access to file servers and still have their same password on the target once they've been migrated over. We can also migrate users off for NDS and eDirectory, and there are still some users on NDS, and we can make sure that those get migrated over to AD as well. And then we could also migrate things like workstations and servers over to the target once the users have been migrated. So target platforms we support, of course, we're Microsoft-centric, and we can support migrations to Exchange and SharePoint, not only on-premise but also online in Office 365. We support Active Directory migrations and consolidations, and then we can migrate things like SharePoint over to public folders and SharePoint to SharePoint Online, and make sure that your workstations and servers are migrated over as well. And then once you're over in the target system, we do have solutions that help you manage and make sure that you can recover from any problems, report off at anything in the Active Directory environment, and we could also provide things like provisioning systems and ensure that ongoing compliance takes place as well. So preparing for an Exchange migration. So the solutions that you need to help ensure that there's a successful migration. We can do an assessment with Dell Message Stats. That's the product you would use to do your source assessment on Exchange. And it can look into the current environment. It can help you define your project scopes, determine what's going to be migrated, what resources are still being used on the source. It can help you determine whether or not you need to migrate over any users in groups together and ensure that the correct users are migrated over at the right time. And then you can also understand the current utilization of your current network, determine what the sizes of your current mailboxes, and so that you make sure that you plan for enough growth in your data, and make sure that you plan for enough storage on the target before you've even migrated over. Change Auditor helps with compliance. It allows you to look at your source Active Directory in Exchange to determine what applications are accessing those systems. You can determine whether or not an application is accessing certain Exchange servers or certain Active Directory servers to help you basically remediate those applications and plan for those during migration and ensure that users can maintain access to those during migration. It helps you determine who's doing what to Exchange in the source. So it provides that compliance feature where you can determine who's made what change in the source system, and so you can track any changes that might occur during your migration period. Recovery Manager for Exchange provides a complete recovery solution before, during, and after migration. So if anything were to happen with your data during migration in a particular mailbox, you can recover that at a message level. You can also do mailbox comparisons to determine that everything's migrated, and also quickly recover data that may have been corrupted before the migration even occurred, and help you recover that data and restore it to the target mailbox so that it's no longer corrupt. You can also archive data. So if there's a lot of things that you store in Exchange, a lot of your users are using it as a storage mechanism. A lot of users store very old data in Exchange, things that they still need to access, but might not need to access immediately. They might only refer to it once in a while. Well, that information can be archived into our archive with Archive Manager for Exchange. And we could clean up all that source data, and it'll reduce the data footprint you have in the source and help you migrate over even quicker into the new target system. So we also have Exchange solutions to meet your needs. Basically, we can migrate you from legacy Exchange, like I mentioned earlier. We're the only vendor with a direct one-hop migration from Exchange 2000 or 2003 to Exchange 2013 with true coexistence, meaning we can provide you coexistence during the migration. There's no need for a swing server, and we can migrate you directly over to an Exchange 2013 forest. And you won't have to worry about upgrading your source forest. You won't have to worry about adding any additional service to your source forest, and we can just do that migration directly. We can also do a cloud or a hybrid transition, so we can basically move you either to the cloud or migrate you into a hybrid situation where there's already an on-premise forest that's in a hybrid relationship with an Office 365 tenant. We can also migrate non-Microsoft platforms, like I mentioned, Notes and GroupWise in Gmail, and be able to migrate that not only into Exchange on-premise, but Exchange in Office 365 as well. And then while we do that, we can provide true coexistence, enabling users to still have their calendars and generate appointments with each other and be able to reply to emails back and forth as if they've never been migrated. We can also help you with consolidation projects by consolidating multiple Exchange organizations And we could do that with code assistance so that users never lose access to email. And when we move mailboxes in those situations, it's always an online move. Users are never locked out of their mailboxes. Dell is a trusted partner for your migration. We can make sure that you're successful in your migration project. We've been doing this for over 12 years in migrating customers. We have a lot of experience in migrating mailboxes and Active Directory users. You can see there we've migrated over 30 million mailboxes and 40 million users to Active Directory. I can say that there's no other partner out there that has migrated as many mailboxes and as many users as we have. I guarantee you that if you use our migration experts, that they have all seen it before. If you call into our support department, if you ever had an issue with your migration, our support department has seen every migration scenario out there, and nothing surprises them. We actually have support that encompasses the whole globe. It's 24/7, 365, and we've migrated over 100,000 customers with our tools and have enjoyed a lot of success over the years. I really want to thank you for your time today. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to me talk about what our solutions are for migration. I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about how you can be successful in your migration, and I hope that you are successful. At this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Josh, and I'll be able to take your questions. So any questions you have, feel free to ask. And Josh, I turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Ron. I really appreciate the presentation. Before we get to the questions and answers, I want to remind everybody that you can submit your questions and comments in that field provided on the left-hand side of your console. Wonderful presentation, so I'm sure that you have plenty of questions, and this is a perfect time to ask them because we actually have an expert here in Ron from Dell when we're talking about climbing the Exchange 2013 mountain, how to get on top. As you can see that Ron Robbins, who's a product manager for Dell Migration Solutions, has just run through a really comprehensive plan for businesses of all types and sizes that may be considering an Exchange 2013 migration. Ron, it occurs to me as you're speaking that everything that you were going through, particularly when you were looking at the top 10 steps to ensure a successful Exchange migration, that what you have created there is essentially a checklist. Not sure if that was intentional, but you used the boxes for your bullets, and our producer, Nicole Lundholm, and I were sitting here and wondering if, in fact, that was intentional. So I'll ask you if it was, but more importantly, for those of you who agree and thought that that was a great checklist, I want you to know that we're going to make that available in the on-demand version. These slides will be available on this console, and you'll receive a link in the email in the next 24 hours so that you can go on and download those slides if you like. Ron, is that how you guys approach migrations at Dell? Was it intended to be a checklist, or was it just an accident of fate?
You know, those are all things we talk about when we run a successful migration. I think that those are all important things to consider, and definitely things that you should look at before you even enter into a migration project. Definitely very good steps to help you prepare.
No, it was, and the questions are coming in now, so I won't beleaguer the point, but it was funny when you were talking about the drivers. One of them was time sensitivity, companies that are on a deadline, and it strikes me that with support ending for Exchange 2013, ending in early 2014, that there are an awful lot of people out there who really are facing a time-sensitive issue. They're going to need to make a decision.
Yeah, and I think you just had a slip of the tongue there. It's actually Exchange 2003 support that's going to end.
Oh, I'm sorry. Correct. Right.
That's okay. It's easy with all the 2000 and whatever's to get.
Right.
But the Exchange 2003 support is going to end in 2014. I believe it's in April. And the last time that we looked at resources like Gartner and also Microsoft that produces some good reports on market share, there's still 40% of the Exchange users on Exchange 2003. So if you're on Exchange 2003, you're definitely not alone, but it's something that you need to plan for over this next year to make sure that you have a migration project in place and so that you look at a good solution to get you there.
What about the considerations now with 2013 for BYOD? Obviously, this is an increasing challenge for, again, businesses of all sizes. Better, worse, seems to me that there are some pretty serious implications here.
Oh, I would say Exchange 2013 has never been better for bringing your own devices. Things like phones and tablets integrate seamlessly with Exchange. I mean, you have things like ActiveSync that pushes the mail to your device, and also if you have a tablet, I really think that the OA experience or the Outlook Web Access experience is so much better in Exchange 2013 now. Usually, I've got a Microsoft or a Dell tablet that has the Microsoft operating system on it, and I use that to access my mail, and I use Outlook just like it's a regular client, even though I'm not even on a desktop, and it's a much better experience than it used to be.
And we're seeing a lot of the big, traditionally security-conscious industries like pharmaceuticals that are migrating to Exchange 2013 for exactly this reason. They've got a lot of people in the field with their own devices, the advantages that you just mentioned. That should be validation for anybody who's wondering if this is the right way to go or not.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, first question today comes from, and I apologize, I traditionally just butcher everybody's names, and it's difficult to extract names from emails, so I apologize ahead of time. First question comes in from Jellard, and it's a good one. Regarding virtual machine best practices, VM best practices, does Exchange 2013 run okay in virtual environments, or is the preferred deployment to a standalone server?
No, Exchange 2013 is completely acceptable to run that on a VM. And as a matter of fact, I think that you'll find that the Microsoft product managers that work on Exchange 2013 did a lot of work to help ensure that Exchange 2013 could be deployed in a virtual environment. I would direct you to the best practices that they have on their website for how to deploy that, but it's definitely something that's improved over the last couple versions of Exchange, and I would say that it's something that they promote.
And another great question, we're on Exchange 2003 Enterprise. Do we have to do an interim update to 2010 to get to 2013? I believe that you said that this is a completely different, forgive me here, what's the right word? A completely different, I guess it would be a code. So do they need to go to 2010 first?
Well, no. So it depends. Let me put it that way. If you use a third-party tool like the Dell Software Group's Migration Manager, like I talked about in this presentation, we can ensure that you can have a direct migration from Exchange 2003 to Exchange 2013 directly. There's no need to upgrade anything in the source organization. It'll be an inter-org migration, but you won't need to install any interim servers or install Exchange 2010, or make sure that your service pack levels are even up to date in Exchange 2003. We can upgrade you just the way you are.
And so that answers this next question. So there are absolutely no migration tools to migrate from 2003. Could it be done via PSTs? But you're saying that the Dell Software Group actually does have a migration tool, which you talked about, and that should get you from 2003 to 2013 pretty easily.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mentioned again, it's the Dell Software Group's migration manager for Exchange, and it'll do a direct migration from Exchange 2003 to Exchange 2013. When I said there were no tools, what I really meant was there's no free tools within Exchange. Exchange offers the new move request or the mailbox replication service to do intra-org moves in Exchange, and those tools don't support a migration from Exchange 2000 or 2003 to Exchange 2015.
And what about the issue? Is it possible to do via PSTs?
Well, I mean, you could do it via PSTs, but the problem that you have with that is that your users are going to experience some downtime because you're going to want to lock them out of their mailboxes while you migrate the PST data over. And usually that is more of a cutover approach, and so it's a little bit more impact to end users. If you want them to continue to be able to access mail during the migration while the mail's synchronized over to the target system, and you want them to be able to maintain things like replyability, You want to maintain things like read, unread status of emails, and ensure that the mailbox that the user gets on the target looks exactly like the mailbox on the source. You really want to perform more of a move mailbox or a migration with a third-party tool like ours.
Just want to remind everybody again real quickly, we're talking to Ron Robbins with Dell. He's a migration solutions expert. And Ron, obviously you have struck a nerve. The questions are coming in. A couple of people asking how they can contact you. Rather than share your email with them, I'll send you those emails. If anybody would like Ron to respond to a question directly, you can send those questions to webinars@zipdavis.com, webinars@zipdavis.com, and Nicole will forward those on to Ron, and he'll get back to you if it's a good question, something that he can actually answer. Thanks for bringing those in. Ron, the next question comes in, and this is a tough one. So let's see where we can go with this. Does the Dell migration solution migrate Exchange 2010 public folder data and ACLs to either SharePoint sites and or Exchange resource mailboxes? Now, I'm not sure exactly what the application would be there, but is that possible?
Yeah, we can. Our solution can migrate Exchange public folders into the new Exchange 2013 public folder structure, which is really the mailbox. Exchange public folders in the mailbox that's changed in 2013. We can't. We do have a solution that will migrate to SharePoint as well. It's not my solution. It's actually a different, under a different product manager within Dell. But yes, we do have solutions for both of those scenarios.
And the perfect segue for this next question, if you were migrating a client from 2013 Exchange to 2013 and installing and implementing a 2013 SharePoint application, do you recommend doing one before the other? Does that make sense?
And do they mean recommend doing, does it say doing Exchange before?
So they're going to migrate from 2013 to 2013, Exchange 2013 to Exchange, sorry, here I go again. They're going to migrate from Exchange 2003 to Exchange 2013, but they're also implementing a SharePoint, a 2013 SharePoint application. Should they do one before the other, or does it matter? Either the SharePoint,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense now. Sorry. I would definitely migrate Exchange 2003 to Exchange 2013 first. And the reason why I would do that is because there's a lot more integration in Exchange 2013 with SharePoint. You're going to have access from the Outlook client. You're going to be able to integrate the way attachments are handled within SharePoint. And there's just a lot more functionality and a lot more use that you're going to get out of SharePoint once you do the migration to Exchange 2013 first. So I would definitely do that first.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Good information. This one's a good one. And we were talking about BYOD earlier, bring your own device, and I can see this applying in that sort of a situation. The question is this: does Exchange 2013 allow more granular control of mobile devices than just wiping them, such as removing the email account and contacts without removing other things? So this would definitely have direct application in BYOD environment. For instance, if somebody's leaving the company or whatever the case may be. Are you able to do that? You talked a lot about some of the benefits now with manageability and access control. How far does it go?
Yeah, and I don't think when you wipe it, I don't believe that it wipes the whole device. I believe what it does is it does remove the mail and remove, anything that's considered a, business mail with ActiveSync. And so I believe that you have that option to remove the email account, the ActiveSync account that's synchronizing with Exchange and ensuring that users don't have access to that any longer. I would say I'm not an expert on that part of Exchange 2013, so I would definitely want to refer you to Microsoft for that to make sure that you're able to check that out before you migrate.
Beautiful, thank you. Last question of the day, and you've been great. Appreciate you taking all these questions. This one comes from Monty. Monty, you have the last word today. I have 2003, 2007, and 2010. Can I add 2013 to coexist with the current servers?
Not as long as you have 2003 in your forest. If you have all those in the same forest, you cannot add Exchange 2013 to it, you're going to need to upgrade the Exchange 2003 servers first.
There you go, and we'll give that last word to Monty. Ron, really appreciate it. Once again, thanks for coming on today.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Josh, and thanks for the Q&A session. It was very good.
Without a doubt. Of course, that's Ron Robbins, Product Manager for Dell Migration Solutions. Today's presentation, Climbing the Exchange 2013 Mountain, How to Get to the Top. And again, the checklist that Ron provided sort of inadvertently in this presentation will be available in the on-demand version. Simply click and log in when you receive that email within the next 24 hours, and you can download that presentation as a PDF, and recommend that you pass it around and share it with whomever you feel would be appropriate. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. I'm Josh Gingold. For myself, Ron Robbins, everyone at Ziff Davis and Dell, thanks for joining us, and have a great day.